For the last 20 years, I've been designing puzzles. And I'm here today to give you a little tour, starting from the very first puzzle I designed through what I'm doing now. I've designed puzzles for books, printed things. I'm the puzzle columnist for Discover magazine. Been doing that for about 10 years. I have a monthly puzzle calendar. I do toys. Bulk of my work is in computer games. I did the puzzles for Bejeweled. I didn't invent Bejeweled. I can't take credit for that. So, very first puzzle, 6th grade. My teacher said, oh, let's see, that guy, he likes to make stuff. I'll have him cut out letters out of construction paper for the board. I thought this was a great assignment. And so here's what I came up with. I started fiddling with it. I came up with this letter. This is a letter of the alphabet that's been folded just once. And the question is, which letter is it? If I unfold it. And one hint, it's not L. It could be L, of course. So what else could it be? Yeah, a lot of you got it. Oh, yeah. So, clever thing. Now, that was my first puzzle. I got hooked. I created something new. I was very excited. Because, I'd made crossword puzzles, but that's sort of like filling in somebody else's matrix. This was something really original. I got hooked. I read Martin Gardner's columns in Scientific American, went on, and eventually decided to devote myself full-time to that. Now, I should pause and say, what do I mean by puzzle? A puzzle is a problem that is fun to solve and has a right answer. Fun to solve as opposed to everyday problems, which frankly are not very well-designed puzzles. It might have a solution, might take you a long time. Nobody wrote down the rules clearly. Who designed this? It's like, life is not a very well-written story, so we have to hire writers to make movies. Well, I take everyday problems, I make puzzles out of them. And right answer, of course, there might be more than one right answer. Many puzzles have more than. But as opposed to a couple other forms of play, toys and games, by toy I mean something you play with that doesn't have a particular goal. You can create one out of Legos, but you can do anything you want. Or competitive games like chess, where, you're not trying to solve. You can make a chess puzzle, but the goal really is to beat another player. I consider that puzzles are an art form. They're very ancient. It goes back as long as there's written history. It's a very small form, like a joke, a poem, a magic trick, or a song, very compact form. At worst, they're throwaways. They're for amusement, but at best, they can reach for something more and create a memorable impression. The progression of my career that you'll see is looking for creating puzzles that have a memorable impact. So one thing I found early on when I started doing computer games is that I could create puzzles that will alter your perception. I'll show you how. Here's a famous one. So it's two profiles in black or a white vase in the middle. This is called a figure ground illusion. The artist M.C. Escher exploited that in some of his wonderful prints. Here we have day and night. Here's what I did with figure and ground. So here we have figure in black. Here we have figure in white, and it's all part of the same design. The background to one is the other. Originally, I tried to do the words figure and ground, but I couldn't do that, and I realized I changed the problem. It's all figure. A few other things. Here's my name, and that turns into the title of my first book, Inversions. These sorts of designs now go by the word ambigram. I'll show you just a couple others. Here we have the numbers of 1 through 10, the digits 0 through 9, actually. Each letter here is one of these digits. Not strictly an ambigram in the conventional sense. I like pushing on what an ambigram can mean. Here's the word mirror. No, it's not the same upside down. It's the same this way. And a marvelous fellow from the Media Lab just got appointed head of RISD, is John Maeda, and so I did this for him. It's sort of a visual canon. And recently in Magic magazine, so I've done a number of ambigrams on magicians' names. So here we have Penn and Teller. Same upside down. This appears in my my puzzle calendar. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Thank you very much. Now, Those are fun to look at. Now, how would you do it interactively? For a while, I was an interface designer, and so I think a lot about interaction. Well, let's first of all simplify the Vase's illusion, make the thing on the right. Now, if you could pick up the black vase, it would look like the figure on top. If you could pick up the white area, it would look like the figure on the bottom. Well, you can't do that physically, but on computer you can do it. Let's switch over to the PC, and here it is, figure ground. The goal here is to take the pieces on the left and make them so they look like the shape on the right. And this follows the rules I just said. Any black area that's surrounded by white can be picked up, but that's also true of any white area. So here we got the white area in the middle, and you can pick it up. I'll just go one step further. So here's a couple pieces, move them together, and now this is an active piece. You can really get inside somebody's perception and have them experience something. It's like the old maxim of you can tell somebody something and show them, but if they do it, they really learn it. Here's another thing you can do. There's a game called Rush Hour. This is one of the true masterpieces in puzzle design besides Rubik's Cube. So here we have a crowded parking lot with cars all over the place. The goal is to get the red car out. It's a sliding block puzzle. It's made by the company Think Fun. It's done very well. I love this puzzle. Well, let's play one here. So here's a very simple puzzle. Well, it's too simple. Let's add another piece. Okay, so how would you solve this one? Well, move the blue one out of the way. Here, let's make it a little harder. Still pretty easy. Now I'm making it harder, a little harder. Now this one's a little bit trickier. What do you do here? The first move is going to be what? You're going to move the blue one up in order to get the lavender one to the right. And you can make puzzles like this one that aren't solvable at all. Those four are locked in a pinwheel. You can't get them apart. I wanted to make a sequel. I didn't come up with the original idea, but this is another way I work as an inventor, is to create a sequel. I came up with this Railroad Rush Hour. It's the same basic game, except I introduced a new piece, a square piece that can move both horizontally and vertically. In the other game, the cars can only move forward and back. Created a whole bunch of levels for it, now making it available to schools, and it includes exercises that show you not just how to solve these puzzles, but how to extract the principles that will let you solve mathematical puzzles or problems in science, other areas. So I'm really interested in you learning how to make your own puzzles as well as just me creating them. Gary Trudeau calls himself an investigative cartoonist. He does a lot of research before he writes a cartoon. In Discover magazine, I'm an investigative puzzle maker. I got interested in gene sequencing, and I said, well, how on earth can you come up with a sequence of the base pairs in DNA? You cut up the DNA, and you sequence individual pieces, and then you look for overlaps, and you basically match them at the edges. And I said, that's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, except the pieces overlap. So here's what I created for Discover magazine, and it has to be solvable in a magazine. You can't cut out the pieces and move them around. So here's the 9 pieces, and you're supposed to put them into this grid, and you have to choose pieces that overlap on the edge. There's only one solution. It's not that hard, but it takes some persistence. And when you're done, it makes this design, which if you squint, is the word helix. So that's the form of a puzzle coming out of the content rather than the other way around. Here's a couple more. Here's a physics-based puzzle. Which way will these fall? One of these weighs 50 pounds, 30 pounds, and 10 pounds, and depending on which one weighs which amount, they'll fall different directions. And here's a puzzle based on color mixing. I separated this image into cyan, magenta, yellow, black, the basic printing colors, and then mixed up the separations, and you get these peculiar pictures. Which separations were mixed up to make those pictures? Gets you thinking about color. Finally, what I'm doing now. So shufflebrain.com, website you can go visit. I joined up with my wife, Amy Jo Kim. She could easily be up here giving this a talk about her work. So we're making smart games for social media, and I'll explain what that means. We're looking at 3 trends. This is what's going on in the games industry right now. First of all, for a long time, computer games meant, like things like Doom, where you're going around shooting things, very violent games, very fast, aimed at teenage boys, right? That's who plays computer games. Well, guess what? That's changing. Bejeweled is a big hit. It was the game that really broke open what's called casual games. And the main players are over 35 and they're female. Then recently, Rock Band's been a big hit. And it's a game you play with other people. It's very physical. It looks nothing like a traditional game. This is what's becoming the dominant form of electronic gaming. Now, within that, there's some interesting things happen. There's also a trend towards games that are good for you. Why? Well, we aging boomers, baby boomers, we're eating our healthy food, we're exercising. What about our minds? oh no, our parents are getting Alzheimer's, we better do something. Turns out doing crossword puzzles can stave off some of the effects of Alzheimer's. Well, so we got games like Brain Age coming out for the Nintendo DS, huge hit. A lot of people do Sudoku. In fact, some doctors prescribe it. And then there's social media of what's happening on the internet. Everybody now considers themselves a creator and not just a viewer. And what does this add up to? Here's what we see coming. It's games that fit into a healthy lifestyle. They're part of your life. They're not necessarily a separate thing, and they're both something that's good for you, and they're fun. I'm a puzzle guy. My wife is an expert in social media, and we decided to combine our skills. Our first game is called Photograb. The game takes about 1 minute and 20 seconds. This is your first time playing my game. Okay, let's see how well we can do. There are 3 images, and we have 24 seconds each. Where is that? And I'll play as fast as I can, but if you can see it, shout out the answer. You get more down. Okay, yeah. And where's that? Oh, yeah. There. Oh, okay. J-O and let's see. I guess that's that part. We got the bow. That bow helps. That's his hair. You get a lot of figure ground problems. Yeah, that one's easy. Okay. So and then okay. On to the next one. Okay. So that's the lens. Okay. Anybody? Looks like a black shape, but okay. So where's that? That's the corner of the whole thing. Yeah, I've played this image before, but I get even when I make up my own puzzles, and you can put your own images in here, and we have people all over the world doing that now. There we are. Visit shufflebrain.com if you want to try it yourself. Thank you.